Watch closely. A cup slips from a table, falls, and shatters across the floor. Nothing strange about that, you have seen it 100 times. But now, watch it in reverse. The shards leap up, fit themselves perfectly back together, and the cup lands gently in your hand. Your mind rebels at once, that simply cannot happen. And yet, here is the puzzle, not a single law of energy was broken in that reversed film. Energy was conserved either way. So what did the backward film violate? The answer is the deepest one-way street in all of physics, the arrow of time. This is the story of the one quantity that decides which way that arrow points, a quantity that, in a closed world, only ever grows. This is entropy, and the second law of thermodynamics. Our whole world runs in one direction. Pour hot coffee, and it always cools toward the room, never the other way around. If you wrapped your hands around the mug and your hands grew colder while the coffee grew hotter, you would call it magic. Pop a balloon full of helium, and the gas rushes out to fill the whole room. It never, ever gathers itself back into the balloon's shape, even though energy conservation would happily allow it. Notice the pattern. In every case, energy alone cannot tell you which way the process runs, both directions conserve it perfectly. So energy is not the referee. Something else quietly decides the direction. That something is called entropy. Here is the postulate at the heart of it all. If an irreversible process happens inside a closed system, the entropy of that system always increases. It never decreases. Unlike energy, entropy is not conserved, and its relentless growth is the very reason time has a direction. To make entropy useful, we need to measure its change. And the recipe is beautifully simple. As a system moves from a starting state to a final state, add up every little scoop of heat it exchanges, each divided by the temperature at which it flows. When the temperature barely changes, a system in touch with one big reservoir, the integral collapses to something you can do in your head, the heat exchanged, divided by that single temperature. Because temperature is always positive, heat in raises entropy, heat out lowers it. But there is a catch. During a violent, irreversible change, a gas bursting into a vacuum, the system has no single pressure or temperature to speak of. There is simply no smooth path to add up along. So how can we possibly compute the change? Here is the elegant escape. Entropy is a state function, its change depends only on the endpoints, never on the road between them. So we quietly swap the messy irreversible process for any calm, reversible path that links the same two states, and compute the change for that instead. Carry that idea through for an ideal gas, and one clean formula falls out. The entropy change depends only on how the volume and the temperature move from start to finish. Proof, right there, that entropy is a state function. Now we can state the law that governs everything. In a closed system, the total entropy change is never negative. The equals sign belongs to perfect, reversible processes, the greater than sign to every real, irreversible one. But wait, can't entropy fall somewhere? Yes. Squeeze a gas and its entropy drops. The trick is to look at the whole picture. Whatever entropy the gas loses, the surroundings gain at least as much. Add up everything, and the total still climbs, or at best holds steady. You can actually feel the second law in your hands. Take a rubber band. Relaxed, its long molecules are coiled in a wild, tangled, high-entropy mess. Now stretch it. You drag those chains into neat, parallel lines, you lower their entropy. And because a system resists being pushed to lower entropy, the band pulls back on your fingers. That gentle restoring tug is, quite literally, an entropy force. Now for the payoff engines. A heat engine is any machine that swallows heat and hands back useful work, a steam turbine, a car, a power plant. At its heart sits a working substance that cycles round and round, forever returning to where it began. Each cycle it drinks a big gulp of heat from the hot side, spits a smaller gulp out to the cold side, and the difference between them escapes as work. Energy in equals energy out, the first law, written over one full loop. The gold standard is the Carnot engine, dreamed up by Sadi Carnot in 1824 before entropy even had a name. Its cycle is two gentle isothermal steps, where heat flows, joined by two insulated steps, where no heat flows at all. And here is the deep condition that makes a Carnot engine reversible. Over one closed loop the working substance returns home, so its entropy change is exactly zero. The entropy poured in at the hot temperature must equal the entropy carried out at the cold one. How good can an engine be? Efficiency is simply what you get, the work, divided by what you pay for the heat you drew from the hot side. Feed the Carnot conditions into that, and a legendary formula appears. Stare at that formula and a hard truth stares back. Because the cold temperature can never reach absolute zero, the fraction never reaches 1. No engine, none, ever, can be 100% efficient. A perfect engine that turns all its heat into work is simply forbidden. And this ceiling is real, not academic. A car engine that could reach its Carnot limit might touch 55%, in practice it manages about 25%. A power plant might aim for 40 and reach 30. No clever design ever beats the line Carnot drew. One subtlety worth knowing, the ceiling belongs to Carnot alone. A Stirling engine runs between the same two temperatures, but joins its isotherms differently, so it always falls a little short. Carnot is the absolute best, nothing does better. Turn the whole cycle around, and you get a refrigerator. Now you pay in work to shove heat the wrong way uphill, from the cold inside to the warm kitchen. Heat will not climb that hill on its own, so the machine must push it. Its score is the coefficient of performance, the heat you pull out of the cold space, divided by the work you spend doing it. For a Carnot fridge it depends only on the two temperatures. Which raises the twin of the perfect engine, the perfect refrigerator, one that moves heat from cold to hot for free, with no work at all. Run the entropy books and the total comes out negative. The second law forbids it. In plain words, there is no free fridge. You have to plug it in. There is a second, deeper way to see entropy, not with heat, but by counting. Picture 6 molecules rattling in a box split into a left half and a right half. How they split up is the whole story. A configuration is a head count, say 4 on the left, 2 on the right. A microstate is one exact arrangement of the actual molecules. The number of microstates in a configuration is its multiplicity, and it comes straight from counting combinations. Count them all up for 6 molecules, and a clear winner emerges. The even 3-3 split has 20 microstates, far more than any other. The lopsided all-on-one-side splits have just 1 apiece. Since every microstate is equally likely, the system spends almost all its time in the crowded middle. Ludwig Boltzmann tied the two worlds together with one immortal line carved onto his own tombstone. Entropy is Boltzmann's constant times the logarithm of the number of microstates. The logarithm is no accident. Entropies add while probabilities multiply, and that is exactly what logarithms do. This is why the air never crowds into one corner and leaves you gasping. For just 100 molecules, the even split beats the all-on-one-side split by a factor of 10 to the 29. For a real roomful, trillions upon trillions, the lopsided arrangements are so absurdly rare they will never, ever happen. Equilibrium is simply the overwhelmingly most likely place to be. Let us put it to work. Two identical copper blocks, one at 60 degrees, one at 20, touch inside an insulated box and settle at 40. The hot block loses entropy, the cold block gains it. Which wins? The same heat is worth more entropy where it arrives cold. So the cold block gains a touch more than the hot block loses, and the total comes out positive, about plus 2.4 joules per Kelvin. Exactly what the second law demands. Now a challenge. An inventor swears his engine is 75% efficient, running between boiling and freezing water. Is he a genius or mistaken? Check it against the Carnot ceiling. Between 373 Kelvin and 273, the very best possible efficiency is only about 27%. A real engine must do worse still. 75% is impossible, the inventor is mistaken. So let us rise back up, out of the equations, all the way back to that shattered cup on the floor. Every one-way street we walk, coffee cooling, a balloon emptying, an egg breaking, an engine falling short of perfection is really the same story told again. In a closed world, entropy climbs, and that climb is time itself, moving forward. Energy tells you what is possible. Entropy tells you which way it will actually go. Master that one idea, and you hold the arrow of time in your hands. Thank you for traveling with us.